How to create a news opener in Cinema 4D. Hi guys, I'm Ghulam Reza Behzad and thanks for your support to this channel. I have created this video tutorial based on your comments because many of you asked me to do a tutorial for news opener. So please give it a like. I want to know if this video can make 100 likes in 1 week. I hope this video can help you to learn something new. Those who are new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Now if you are ready, let's start. Okay, let's get the job done. First of all, import the world map, and this is the world map that I'm using. Here it is, as you can see. Now let's put it inside an extrude generator to make it 3D and activate go to shading lines or press NB to see the edges. Now change the type to quadrangles and activate regular grade. So far so good. Add the warp modifier and group them together. So nice. Now change the options, the warp option to spherical. And here we go, we have our 3D world map. That's really nice. And let's change some of the parameters. Maybe 5 centimeter in the extrude option and change the caps to fillet cap. It's good to use the fillet cap because it creates great roundings around the edges of your 3D model. Okay, with the following setting, steps 5 and radius 0.5. Good. Press NA to get to the normal view. Okay, rename it to world map. Good. And now let's add an sphere to our scene. Go to the top view and now add an sphere. It's right here. Increase the size. Good. Increase the segments, something like 100. Okay, and now let's change the position of the world map. You can use the modifier lines in order to put the world map in the center of the axis. And if you're in the other views, you can only activate one axis to use that. In this case, I'm using only the Z axis, and you can see just I drag and I can move the position of the object. Yes, good. That's nice. Increase the size of the sphere. And now let's make some test renders. Add ambient occlusion and press Shift R. And press Shift R to render the scene in picture viewer. It's always good to have some test renders of your objects in the scene. As you can see, we have one problem here, so we need to fix it. Yeah, I think we have this problem only in this side. Let me check the other sides. Yeah, that's only in that side. Okay, it's easy to fix it. Go to warp options and increase the width. Okay, I think I'm happy with this. It looks great. It looks great. So far so good. Okay. I think it's good if we change the position of the axis of world map to the center. Enable axis. Use the move tool to change the pivot point to the center. Good. We do this because if we want to animate the world map, it animates around the pivot and it should be in the center. So let's have another test render. Yeah, that's really nice. Create another copy of the sphere and put it inside an atom array generator. Decrease the cylinder and sphere radius. Also decrease the segments to something like 25, not maybe 50. Okay, that's good. Duplicate the world map once more and increase the size. Something like this may work good. Okay, another test render. And as you can see, the more objects you add to the scene, it takes more time to render, but it's okay. Maybe we should increase the size of the sphere in atom array to make it bigger. Maybe bigger than this. Okay, that's good. And now let's group them all together and rename it to all world. That's good. So now if we animate it, you can see it is animated around the pivot point in the center, and it animates perfectly. So time to add more details to the scene. Use a tube. Okay, change the size of tube in height. Something like 10 centimeters is good. Make changes to the other parts of the tube. You can add details to your scene when you want to create a news opener by using tubes, torus, spheres, and some other objects to make more variations and details to your scene and make it look professional and great. Duplicate it once more. Drag it to the top and activate slice. Change the options. Height something like 5. You see, it's a matter of playing with the options of these objects to create more variations in your scene and more details to your scene. Maybe by using this tube, we can create more duplicates or copies of this tube and just change the size of that and the position of that. You see like this, and it creates more variations and details to your scene. If you animate them, it looks really professional and great. One more duplicate. change the size, change the slice options, that is nice. I don't know what's your suggestion about creating these news openers. If you have any suggestion, please leave a comment in the section below, because I want to know if you have any question, any suggestion to make different news openers. So let's continue our work by having another test render. So far so good. Add a torus to the scene, change the size, something like this. Pipe radius maybe 1 and the ring segments to 100. Create another copy, activate the slice and increase this pipe radius to something like 1.5. Okay. Change the options in slice tab to create a different look of the torus. Create a duplicate and rotate it. Create another duplicate and rotate this one too. Choose 3 of them and group them together. As you can see now, when we animate them, they all are rotating together. Create another copy of the torus. Drag it up. Resize it. Maybe bigger than the other one. Increase the pipe radius. Decrease the pipe radius to 1. Another copy of that. Create another copy of that and increase the size to something like 1.5. You see, it's a matter of just playing with the numbers to create different shapes for your news opener. Rotate this one. Okay, that's good. Group them together. It's always good to group the same objects in the one group, because it's really easy to find them out, and if you want to make duplicates of that, as you can see, I've created another duplicate of that and I moved it to the bottom part of the world map. It makes your work easier. Let's have another test render. That's better now. So far so good. Duplicate the cube once more. Drag it to the bottom part of the world map and increase the size. Change the height to 10 centimeter. I think it's good if we create a camera and target for our camera to create the shot, the final shot that we want to have the render. Let's add the target to our camera and change the rotation and the position. so we can see in our renders that how our final shot looks. Okay, there we go. Let's add more details to the scene. Duplicate the tube and put it underneath. And now activate the slice option. Because I want to create 4 copies of this and I want to use a cloner object, I change the position, I change the size to 60 centimeter and then add a cloner object and change the mode to radial and the count to 6 and change the transform option and change the rotation in transform. Something I think 60 may work. Yeah. Go to the top view and see how it's going. And now let's change it a little bit more, but I think 60 will work with that. Now it's time to decrease the size, the radius size. Yeah, that's perfect. Increase the height to something like 25. Okay, let's create another copy of this cloner. And for this one, I think I'm gonna have 4 of these tubes. So go to the slice option and change it to 120. Yeah, it creates 3 of them, sorry, not 4. Change the count to 3 and change the radius. Go to the rotation options and change it to 30. Go to the object tab and decrease the radius until they reach to each other. 1 maybe work good. Okay. Now increase the size. Yeah, really nice. I think it's good to activate global illumination because it gives a good feedback about the objects in the scene and the way we can add more details to the scene and the way we can make more changes to the scene. So let's add an HDRI to our sky object. Good. Add a compositing tag and uncheck scene by camera. And now let's have a render. And as you can see, global illumination does a great job when you want to have a feedback of your scene. This is really helpful when you want to know about every detail in your scene because you can see exactly how it is going on. That's good. Let's add more details to the scene. Create the tube once more and drag it to the bottom and Just put it somewhere under the world map. Yeah, that might be good. And increase the height to something like 25. Good. That's great. And now let's duplicate it once more and activate the slice option for this one. But first, let me reposition it and decrease the height. Go to slice, activate it. Let me check the settings. Something maybe 160, but I don't think if it works well. 180 is good. I leave it like that and just move it down above the tube. And now reposition it properly in your scene. Activate the y-axis and just drag it. Fine. Activate the camera. Maybe we can render this time using another angle. Just change the position of the camera and press Shift R to render the scene once more in picture viewer. Yeah, this is what we have so far and it looks great. And as you can see, global illumination does a great job because it helps you to see every object and detail in your scene, and it gives you a perfect feedback of your scene. So now let's add a sphere to the scene and put it inside the cloner. Increase the radius to something like maybe 5. Good. And increase the radius to something like 400 and add more counts. Something like 50. Good. So now let's add more frames, maybe 180. Because we're going to animate the objects in the scene. First, we start with the world map. Okay, add some rotation to the world map. Go to the beginning of the timeline, create a keyframe. Move to the end of timeline and add 330. And that's good. It creates a perfect loop for you. But I think it's good to decrease it to something like 180. Yeah. To rotate slower. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this. Okay, now let's animate the other parts. And now let's animate the other objects in the scene. Choose these 3 tubes and group them together and rename the group name to something like tubes 1. Just help you to find out the objects of your scene easily. And let's animate this one too, one by one. the first tube. Okay, that's good. Maybe minus 180. It's better now. Animate the second one. Create a keyframe, another keyframe to the end. Create a keyframe at the beginning of the timeline, go to the end of the timeline and create another keyframe. Maybe minus 208, 210. And animate the third one, go to the first of the timeline, create a keyframe, go to the end of the timeline and create another keyframe for that. And that's good. Okay, now let me create a kind of material to see how these objects move in the scene. Yeah, it's nice. And what about the other objects in the scene? Maybe we don't need to animate every object in the scene, just leave some of the objects as they are. For example, these base tubes, we don't need to animate them. Just animate the ones that can create a kind of difference into your scene. Maybe negative 360. Let me play it. Yeah, it's really nice. And now let's animate the first cloner. $210. Good. Or 180 because I want to have a slower movement for the objects in the scene. And for cloner 2, something like 90 degrees. It works good. Yeah, I like it. Okay, just put the other objects that you don't want to animate them in one folder, in one group, and the others in another group. Rename this one to base torus because I don't want to animate this one. And now let's animate the other ones. These ones with the sliced options on. You can animate these sliced torus just by group. I mean, you can animate the whole group together. Something like minus 90 degrees. They work well. Let me add this material to the base torus. Yeah, it's really nice. Okay, remove the other base torus in the scene and only animate the sliced ones. Rename it to torus parts 2. It's always a good habit to organize the objects in your scene, rename them and put them inside groups in the objects tab. It really helps you to find out and animate your objects easily in the scene, and it can improve the way you work with Cinema 4D. and it really helps you to work faster using Cinema 4D. Okay, rename the other parts to torus parts 3. Let's animate them too. Maybe minus 90 degrees. Okay, let's check them out. Okay, it's what we have so far and it looks great. Yeah, so far so good. Okay, I think I'm on the right track. Good. Yeah, as you can see, it looks really great. And now let's animate the spheres. Rename the cloner object to a small spheres and create keyframes for that too. Okay, that's really nice. This is what we have so far and looks great. Let's get back to the camera view and play our animation. Maybe it's good to add another camera and use a different view for our final shot, because that one didn't look great. I'm not happy with that one. Yeah, this shot maybe is better. Okay, very nice. Delete the previous camera and target object, and we're going to use this camera. And now let's animate this. Go to frame 60, create a keyframe for that. Now go to the beginning of the timeline and just change the position of the camera. Move it forward. Okay, rotate it a little bit. For the keyframe, let's check it out. Okay. We need to make more changes to that. Move further. Change the position in y-axis and move forward. This one looks perfect. Okay, let me check it out. Good. And now let's add the title for our Actually, you can add this title using Adobe After Effects, or if you want, you can create it in Cinema 4D. In this case, I'm gonna create it in Cinema 4D. Just add a cube to your scene, and now let's change the options. For example, the size in Y to 120, size in Z-axis to 10, and move on. Check the fillet option and add some fillet to the cube. And now go to MoGraph and add the Mo text and change the text to something like World News. I'm gonna use the Bebas New Bold for the font. Where is that? Let me find it. Yeah, there it is. Change the alignment to middle. Bring it in front of the cube. Okay. Now change the position, go to the front view and resize it. Make it smaller. Press NA to see the objects. Yeah, this is the title. So go to the caps and activate fillet cap with the following settings: 5 for steps and 0.5 for radius. Good. Now let's have another test render to see how it looks like. Yeah, it looks perfect. And now let's see our animation. How does it look like so far? How does it look like so far? I think it's great, but we have to make some changes to the title. Add a plane effector to the mode text in order to change the position of the letters. Change the position in z-axis. Go to the beginning of the timeline and change the fallout to infinite. Change the fallout to linear. Get out of the camera view and change the position of the plane effector. Rotate it 90 degrees. Okay. And as the camera moves backwards, I want this text to come into the scene. So create a keyframe for the position of plane effector in x-axis. Good. Go to the 60 frame and move it to the right. Create another keyframe for that. Let's see it through camera. Okay, it's getting better and better. Let's activate the other parameters too. The scale, activate the uniform scale and change it to -1 and add some rotations to the letters, maybe something like -90. And now let's animate the scale for cube. Okay, go to the beginning of the timeline. Okay, where do I want this to happen? Go to frame 30, create keyframes for a scale. Go to the beginning of the timeline and decrease it to 0. Play through. I think I need to change the position of these keyframes. Okay, now it looks perfect. Let's have another test render of the scene. Yeah, it looks great. Let me decrease the number of frames to 90. I think it works well for the final shot. And that is for today's video, and I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Please, if you have any question or if you have any suggestion, please leave a comment in the section below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Till next time, goodbye.